Live for you, Shotman's YouTube channel. Let's get into it, man. Kumo D's top 50 greatest MCs of all time. This is a book that Kumo D wrote years ago. I want to go over his list. Let's get into it. We're going to resume with number 47. Excuse me, number 46. You see in the thumbnail. At number 46, he chose Fat Joe at the time. The Puerto Rican rhymes Don. Let's get into it. Everybody talks gas, really don't pack them. 98% of these rappers is all actors. Stay fronting like you wild out and space something. Come to find out, you ain't never slayed nothing. Think it's a game, gonna lose the sport. I've seen dudes get bruised through fault, then choose the court. News report, they just pursued the course. If you even think of busting their blank, they sue your thoughts. Believe it or not, Fat Joe was a pioneer. That's what Kumo D said in his chapter about Fat Joe. Said, no, he's not the first successful Puerto Rican MC. That would be Ruby D of the Fantastic Romantic Five. He's also not even the first highly acclaimed Puerto Rican MC. That would be the devastating Tito of the Fearless Four. And yes, Gerardo had pop success, Kid Frost had the streets in the West, and Be Real Cypress Hill is an icon in the Mexican Latino hip-hop communities. But Fat Joe is the first true Puerto Rican soloist to cross over into the predominantly African-American world of hip-hop. Fat Joe, aka Joey Crack, aka Don Corner Jr., served as a lyricist, as an MC, and a hardcore artist in the tightly knit underground level of the hip-hop world. He's respected on the streets for the credibility of his lyrical content. He's edged to keeping it real. When he first hit the scene in the early to mid-90s, the same credibility that he's now respected for was viewed as problematic. The press was just beginning to turn the heat up on gangster rap, a practitioner of its music. Add to the coagulation Joe's uncompromising rhyme style, small-scale independent label relativity, and you had the prescription for failure. However, with shoestring album and video budgets, Joe persevered. With marginal underground hits and guerrilla-style management via Mick Benzo, Fat Joe was able to maintain a street presence that would ultimately pay off for him in the long run. Ironically, in the beginning, Fat Joe wasn't really that good of an MC. I can honestly say he's one of the MCs who worked his way up lyrically. Thanks for hitting the like buttons. Appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. With each LP, you can see clear growth. He hit his stride in the late 90s with the Terror Squad and Big Pun. Soon, Fat Joe was on multiple collaborations and shining every time out. At the end of the millennium, he signed with Atlantic Big Beat and finally had some real money behind him. Suddenly, Fat Joe had the breakthrough that your man can't. This was the beginning of Fat Joe, showing his diversity as an MC. On his earlier works, 1993's Represent, 1995 was Jealous One's Envy. Joe seemed to only be concerned with keeping it gangster. However, as all MCs find out, no matter how lofty your dreams of being a real MC may be, 9 times out of 10, one cannot survive the game without hit records. This is one of the hardest jobs that the new MCs have to face. Keeping your deal is job one. Fat Joe had figured it out. 2001, he dropped Just One Still Envy. The cleverly self-titled acronym, Just One Still Envy. The single We Thuggin' with R. Kelly transitioned Joe from a respected MC into a hip-hop star. What's weird about this situation is that because of Joe's lyrical abilities, he never had to sacrifice his reputation or compromise lyrical integrity to make the hits. Many times, MCs take a total departure from everything they represent as they attempt to chase that elusive hit. Only did Joe not do that, but he enhanced his image. He had to play a persona to the thug persona and upgrade his lyrical skills. He followed the formula that Puffy created with Notorious B.I.G., gave the radio a couple of Spoonie G type love songs, played up the player energy for the ladies, kept the rest of his LP gully and hardcore. Fat Joe followed this formula again on the 2002 release of Loyalty. Once again, he delivered. There was once a skeptical school of thought about Joe's ability to succeed without the help of Big Pun. Sometimes the pundits are too cynical. Not only did Fat Joe succeed, but he superseded all expectations. Definitely one of the 50 greatest MCs. So this is what Kumo D talked about with Fat Joe in this book. This is Fat Joe right here. from the book that Kumo D wrote a long time ago, over 20 years ago. He felt that he was one of the greatest MCs, and he made some valid points. So he talks about his strength. Rhyme pitch, Fat Joe always seemed to be able to stay right in the energy range of wherever the music is. He never sounds like he's pressing. Uh, his weakness is profanity, basically, excess. We dug in John Blaze's favorite record from Kumo D likes, and Just Won't Still Envy, favorite LP. As far as originality, Kumo D gave Fat Joe an 80. Another MC based on the timing, though, the groundwork had been laid way back with Tito from the Phillies 4 and Ruby D from Fantastic Romantic, with Gerardo, Rico Suave in the equation. It wasn't until Fat Joe that the Puerto Rican rapper hit at that level again. Fat Joe matched the New York cadence and brought the energy off that. Was respected as an MC. As opposed to a novelty act, he's harder to give newer acts more for originality, but he put his flavor and slant on the rhyme styles and the rhymes that he was using, even though we had heard these styles before. Number 80, concepts. Joey Clark. A lot of people don't know this, but Joe was the architect of the posse records he made with Pun, Jada Kiss, and Nori. That has something to do with concepts also, because you're putting a record together without knowing what anybody else is going to rhyme about, so you can give them a theme that's a concept in itself. Versatility. Kumo D gave Fat Joe an 80. When he first came out, Fat Joe seemed to be only concerned with coming off as a thug and coming off all court. So those are the types of records that he made. Then later doing the joint with R. Kelly, doing the record with Genuine, you could tell that Joe was diversifying his game, making it bigger, stronger records, and he started seemed to have like a lot more impact in that sense. He still keeps the albums as hardcore as ever. He's now making records in another zone. Vocabulary, he doesn't use extensive vocabulary. Going to Kumo D, he keeps it simple like a lot of MCs. Once in a while, he'll throw in a few words that seem to come out of nowhere. Being Puerto Rican, he had two names anyway. Substance, number 75 for substance. Joe keeps it street, keeps it gutter, keeps it real, and the stories he brings across. A lot of critics will say it's one note with the violence or the subject matter, but there's something to be said about street life still being substantive. Number 80, Fat Joe is like a power forward, going to the hole strong, nothing fair, just go right at you. 7, flavor. Joe isn't playing on the mic, he just comes at you. There's no flavor, he puts his inflection on it. Freestyle with the 75. I'm assuming Joe can freestyle on some level, but he's a writer. You hear it in his rhymes. A lot of times writers like me are better writers than we are freestylers. It's going to Kumo D. Number 80 for vocal presence. Joe definitely attacks the mic with dominant energy. Definitely know who he is when he comes on. Usually it's when he's on a posse record, he's right in pocket and right on point with the energy of the record. Number 75, live performance. Similar to the Pun, a bunch of people out on stage, and too many people have mics sometimes. The show is pretty cool. It seems like he's still working out whatever kinks he has to master on that side of the game. Number 60 for poetic value. Fat Joe is definitely more rhymes and poetry. That's just the way it is. For his body of work, 80. Out of all the MCs on this list, I haven't seen too many that have grown at the rate that I see Fat Joe grow. I mean, he's really getting better each album. When I hear the body of work, I can hear the growth. 65 for industry impact. We decided to make hardcore records. You know that accolades won't come. He understood that, and the industry basically didn't do any type of acknowledgement. His presence was still felt. He was able to sustain without any industry impact. Social impact, 70. He came at a time when hip hop was in full bloom. He had to fight for attention because of the type of records that he made. I think he opened the door and he set the table for Big Pun to come in and be able to do what he did. 80 for longevity. Joe goes back to 94. He's still here. Again, in 2003, this when the book came out around that time, the early 2000s. So 80 for lyrics. Joe was actually a lyrical MC. He focused on the rhyme and the lyrics. And finally, battle skills. I'm saying, I heard Joe say once that he was a troublemaker. And one time when the East Coast, West Coast, like, was going on, Joe, to get ready to set it off. On some level, I think he would hit battle, but I think he meant taking it to another level. Joe has some kind of battle skills within him. I don't know if he would be able to put any kind of time into battling anybody. 1280 was the total score for Fat Joe, according to Kumo D, 1280 and 75.2 average score. So be back with at 1:30 with number 45. Hit the like, but thanks for 2 people hitting the like button. Thanks for supporting the channel. Hopefully you can subscribe to the channel. So until then, talk to you soon.